blessed our youth, and that great energy is still swirling. So now we're going to get up and we're going to sing the song to bless them some more. All right, let's get that music going.
I don't know. Maybe we should make Sally sing. I don't know. All right, let's go. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. One more time. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Be seated, please. Let's affirm our mission statement together. Unity in the Seven Hills is a vibrant, inclusive community that inspires individual spiritual growth, education, prayer, heart connection, and sacred service. And our vision, centered in spirit, we see a world transformed by divine love, where innovative solutions are celebrated and all needs are met. And again, another Ari suggestion said, it's Black History Month. There's so many wonderful, been so many wonderful people of color who have really helped the New Thought movement. Why don't we read every week from them? And so, Ari, would you please lead us in that?
Podium power? There we go. Okay. So, like I said, as your inclusivity and diversity person, I want to make sure that we did something for Black History Month. But first, along those lines, we all have new name tags. They have a pronoun section. Please fill it out. I will come and find you. I do carry a pen. All right. So today, I thought we'd do something special, a little more centered around unity. It's an article from our own Gems of Wisdom from Black Leaders of New Thought booklet. And this is an article by Reverend Sandra Campbell about Reverend Ruth Mosley, who's pretty important, and you'll find out why. Reverend Ruth Mosley is perhaps best known as founder of the Unity Urban Ministerial School in Detroit, where she served as executive director from 1979 to 2013. She also founded and led the Westside Unity Church until she retired. Now she's living in a care facility, but still teaching how to unleash one's God-given potential. Giving sage advice to other residents, she shares her methods for connecting with Source, the God within, and emphasizes the importance of spending time in communion with God, listening to that still, small voice within. God will speak through you and tell you what you need to know, says Reverend Ruth. While she acknowledges some may see this as difficult, she says it is simply being a spokesperson for God. That applies to everyone who seeks a higher level of consciousness. I am God's mouth. I am God's ears. I share them with everyone I meet, Reverend Ruth said in an interview with Mark Hicks of truthunity.net. That was a mouthful. Who is on the Urban School Board of Directors. In affirming those statements, she cautions that one can only share the truth they know. It is the truth that God has revealed through them. In her years of practicing the principles, Reverend Ruth says she learned to acknowledge God and the powerful lessons from the many trials and temptations the Spirit of the Lord brought her through. Those lessons empowered her to become a great pioneer for the unity movement into the urban communities. And along those lines today, perfectly, is our daily word.
No, come on. Being a preacher's kid isn't all that it's sometimes cracked up to be. Robin was down from the University of Massachusetts for President's Day. We're so glad to have Robin with us, and I hooked her into And I didn't have to twist your arm. No, I didn't. Please, if you'd read the daily word.
Hello. The word of today is aspire. I aspire to help create a world that works for all. I hold a vision of an equitable world, a global community that supports and encourages all people to live fully and reach their unique potential. I feel a kinship with those who hold a similar vision and work to realize it. My past experiences and present perspective show me what is mine to do and how I can contribute to realizing my vision. I trust I will be guided and inspired to find avenues of service where the things I do best and most enjoy doing will be helpful. I bless people I may never meet, and I offer my time, talents, and effort to further my vision of a new way of living. With clarity and purpose, I take my place among a growing network of caring, visionary souls. The gifts he gave were to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ. Ephesians 4:11-12. The word of today is aspire.
Thank you. And once again.
There we go. Okay. Music ready? All right. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Nothing you can know that isn't known. Nothing you can see that isn't shown. No way you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All together. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need.
Ari, thank you so much. So, Billy Graham was flying in on his jet to do one of his crusades, and the plane landed on the tarmac, and Dr. Graham got out and with his entourage, and there was a limousine meeting him. Very nice limousine, and Reverend Graham walks around the limousine. He goes over to the driver and says, it's going to be a strange request, but I've always wanted to drive one of these things, and I've never been able to drive. Would you mind if I drove this into town? The driver said, sure, Dr. Graham, here's the keys. And So Reverend Billy gets behind the wheel, and it's a beautiful machine. It's functioning so well. He starts driving. He's getting a little carried away to it. He puts a little too much metal to the pedal. He's going a little too fast. The next thing you know, he hears. He looks up, and there, police lights and all that. So he pulls over to the side. The police officer's car pulls back. The police officer gets out, walks out. The window goes down. The police officer looks in. Goes, oh my. He goes back to his car, pulls out his radio equipment and says, Charlene, this is Bubba. Get me the chief. What's up, Bubba? This is the chief. Well, sir, I think we may have a situation on our hands. What kind of situations? Well, I think I just pulled over somebody really important. Like who, the governor? Oh, no, sir, much more important than the governor. Well, who? The President of the United States? Oh, no, sir, much more important than the President of the United States. Bubba, more important than the President of the United States. Who do you think you pulled over? Well, sir, I just think I pulled over Jesus Christ. Bubba, what makes you think you pulled over Jesus Christ? Well, sir, who else but Jesus would have Billy Graham as his chauffeur? So, we start today, we started last week on a series on unity and world religions. We're doing Sunday Talks, this wonderful book which has just been published by Unity Books on Unity and World Religion by John Paul Roach, a Welshman who for many years was the wonderful minister of a Unity church in Fort Worth, Texas. How does a Welshman wind up in Fort Worth, Texas? An interesting story. And if you remember, and again, it's up online, so please, feel free to, click it and all that. But essentially, I said, the reason I got into it, I'm reading now a book by a fellow by the name of Martin Wolf, who's the chief economic correspondent for the Financial Times in London, really looking at capitalism and democracy and saying that we're going through a period where certain basic assumptions about democracy are really, under assault and attack, basic values and all that. And I gave the image of a congregant in Roanoke who came up to me and said, it's like we're in this boat in a storm-tossed sea and there's no rudder on the boat. And I was thinking, but we do have a rudder, and there is a North Star. In these many wonderful spiritual traditions that we have down through the ages, that there is, as Reverend Paul talks about, a perennial philosophy, taking that term from Aldous Huxley's wonderful book, The Perennial Philosophy, that there is a perennial philosophy, there is a golden thread, and I thought it would be a really good time to look at that. And I said that each week we're going to be looking at what I call I think are the three key questions. So when we look at a religion or a spiritual path, first, does this religion at its core radiate this perennial philosophy, which we talked about? What do you mean by perennial philosophy? We talked about that last week. Does it radiate this golden thread? And second, I then suggested we look at the Huston Smith questions. Remember Huston Smith, that great teacher of comparative religion from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Huston Smith, he said, yeah, they may radiate this perennial philosophy, but they're all cooking with different spices from different cultural traditions and coming at different camera angles. Like, the old Hindu story about blind men touching different parts of the elephant. It's still an elephant, but they're touching different parts of it. And so the questions here I was going to ask, as we look at a spiritual tradition, to what extent, what different spices is it cooking at? What different camera angles are being used? How can we improve our spiritual walk by incorporating some of those spices in our spiritual walk? How can we maybe make a better movie by looking at how the cinematographer is doing a different or a unique camera angle? And then I said, there were the third series of questions. Remember I mentioned Ken Wilber, that wonderful spiritual philosopher and theorist. And Ken Wilber, remember, said, no religion gets an A plus in everything. And I took Unity to task last week, said, I think we get an A plus in this, this, and this, but, you know, quite frankly, in this area and that area, it's the weak link. And if we don't work on this stuff, we're going to be voted off the island, as it were. But I do think that Unity is working on those weaker links. So what's the strong points and what are the weak points? So I'd like to do this with Christianity. But first, before doing that, I'd like to deal with the 600-pound gorilla in the room, or the elephant in the room, and that is Unity Christian? Is Unity part of Christianity, or is it something else? And you know, there's a very interesting debate going on within the Unity movement over this issue. Ari and I and Bonnie were on Thursdays. We were on these Zoom calls, which actually look at their ministers from all over the Eastern region, and one of the sessions was literally devoted to this. Is Unity really part of Christianity? Now, I must say, I feel very, very grateful. This has been a wonderful discussion within the Unity movement. Nobody's pulled out knives, you know. Nobody's saying, you know, if you don't agree with me, I'm taking my marbles home or anything. I mean, it's a very wonderful and I think positive discussion which is going on now. This is not the case in a lot of other denominations. I recently participated in the interfaith. There's an interfaith group here in Lynchburg. Reverend Nancy Purcell was very active in it. They included me. I feel very grateful for that. Oh my goodness, some of the denominations, I mean, the Methodists, they're going through, should they decertify, and they have decertified from the national office, and I mean, over, several key issues. So, you know, it's been a healthy, I'm thinking, you know, I'm glad this debate hasn't led to that. It's been a very healthy discussion. I'll tell you, a number of years ago, I was in a room with the woman who was the chair of the board of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and I walked up to her and I said, Reverend Mary, is Unity part of Christianity? She said, Rick, I'm so glad you asked that question, because we're having that debate in our congregation. And I thought, oh great, I'm going to get the definitive answer. I said, so well, how's that debate going in your congregation? She says, well, 50% think we are part of Christianity and 50% think we're not part of Christianity. I thought, oh God, this is like the runoff in the Georgia, you know, for the Georgia Senate election or something like that. So let me, from both sides, those who would say, yes, we definitely are part of Christianity, would say that the Fillmores very much wanted to get a lot of the incrustation around Christianity away, sort of, get the dust, the grime of the centuries away, get back to first century Christianity and a form of practical Christianity, and that's what the Fillmores were about. And you can pull out a ton of quotes from the Fillmores, from Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, which support that. The other side says, yes, definitely our roots were Christian, but unity has become so much more than that. And the Fillmores, if you look at the Fillmores, they were so interested in Eastern religion, Eastern thought, native spirituality. Myrtle Fillmore and Charles spent many years in the Wild West back in the 1800s, when it really literally was the Wild West. And Myrtle said that many of the Native Americans she met were closer to the Godhead than a lot of the Christians she knew back, that she knew back east. And you can pull out a ton of quotes of the Fillmores like this. And again, I should remind you, this one, nowadays all we have to do is go to Amazon and we can get, any Eastern religious text and translation, or go down to Barnes and Noble or whatever. That was not the case in the days when the Fillmores were exploring. It was very hard to get and hard to get good translations. So you would say, Reverend Rick, so what's your take on it? And I would say, quite frankly, it really depends, what do you mean by Christianity? What do you mean by Christianity? If by Christianity you mean traditional, orthodox, evangelical Christianity, or even a lot of mainline Christianity, then I would say unity is definitely not that. But I wouldn't lose any sleep over that, because the more you start to study, you see that Jesus and the first century Christians were not traditional, anywhere near traditional Orthodox evangelicals or even mainline Christians. That a lot of the doctrines which are held came in centuries later. You'll see, in the back, on the back, you'll see a piece of paper in orange where I'm making some reading suggestions, because I'm going to be saying things, and I want you to know that they're really the latest and really good biblical and archaeological scholarship, I think, so clearly backs this up. Several books which I would suggest, and they're readable. They're readable. They honestly are interesting and readable. Bart Ehrman is a professor at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Bart Ehrman, if you see a PBS special on the New Testament, or Time Magazine's doing some series on Jesus or what, usually Bart Ehrman is brought in as a consultant. Two books which I have suggested by him. First is Lost Christianities, sort of the Christianity before the Council of Nicaea, which I'll talk about in a minute. Another book by Bart Ehrman, which I would strongly suggest, How Jesus Became God. How Jesus Became God. Another book which I would strongly suggest is by a Unity minister. He was my advisor at seminary, Reverend Tom Shepard. Friends in High Places, showing that a lot of things which we now believe in New Thought were very strongly advocated by early thinkers in the Christian movement. For example, Origen, who was seen as one of the leading early scholars and great minds in the Christian movement way back when, and he was a few votes short of being made Pope. He was a few votes short of being, so we're not talking about somebody out in left field or whatever. Tom Shepard's book is Friends in High Places. Another which I would suggest is by Marcus Borg, an incredibly wonderful, progressive, modern biblical scholar who just recently made his transition. Wrote several wonderful books, but one which I'm suggesting is Meeting Jesus Again for the First Time. Meeting Jesus Again for the First Time. Essentially, all these works which I could put others, essentially point a picture where Christianity in the early period, for a long time wasn't even called Christianity, it was just called the Way. It was only in Antioch, many years later, that they started calling them Christians. It was a vibrant, powerful, underground counterculture and spiritual path, really, which the Roman Empire tried to stamp out in the worst way and could not. It had this vibrancy to it. It was very much, and I think Eric Butterworth, that great Unity teacher, has put it so well. Eric said, I'm not interested, said Eric Butterworth, in the religion about Jesus. I'm not interested in the religion about Jesus. What I am deeply interested in is the religion of Jesus. The religion of Jesus. What happens, I think, this is not just in Christianity, it happens all over the place, but certainly has happened in Christianity. What happens is that Jesus and the early ones pointed a finger, showing the way. And instead of looking where he was pointing, we made a plaster cast of his finger. And then we made a bronze cast of his finger, and we got down on our knees and worshiped. And it wasn't even a golden calf; it was a golden finger, as it were. And we started worshiping that. By the time, the Christianity had grown to such a point, finally the Emperor Constantine, the handwriting was on the wall, it was going to become the empire of the religion of the Roman Empire. The powers that be said, okay, gang, you've been this counterculture movement, and hats off to you, you've been a powerhouse, you brought spirituality in a way which, these other, was never felt and everything else like that. But now you're going to become the religion of the empire. Now you guys have to grow up. You have to get serious. We're going to take your leading bishops and all that. We're going to lock you in a room in Nicaea. This was in 325. And we want you to come up with one party line. We want you to come up with one party line. And after you come up with one party line, we'll open the door. You can come out, tell us and you tell us what the party line is. And that essentially is what happened in Nicaea and a few councils after Nicaea. And a lot of, Bart Ehrman is right, lost Christianities. A lot of things then started getting declared as heresy and suppressed. And it had, I think the story, which for me anyway, so captures it, is what in the book of Acts. And again, I don't care whether you take this story literally or metaphysically or some combination of the two. It's a very, very powerful story. So St. Peter is walking down the street, and there's this beggar who can't walk, and he's trying to hawk Peter for money. And Peter looks at the guy, and he says, "Gold and silver have I none, but stand up and walk." And the guy stood up and walked. Again, I don't care whether you take this literally or metaphysically. Stand up and walk. So it's around 1,000 years later. There's this archbishop, and it's during the Italian Renaissance or whatever, and he's counting bags of gold. And one of his good friends walks in, and the bishop looks to him. Remember, Peter said, "Gold and silver have I none, but stand up and walk." And he's counting the gold and silver, and he looks at his friend and he says, "Well, I guess I can no longer say, 'Gold and silver have I none.'" And the friend said, "That's not the problem. The problem is that we can no longer say, 'Stand up and walk.'" That we can no longer say, "Stand up and walk." And that is what has happened. So I would, Myrtle Fillmore. One time somebody went up to Myrtle Fillmore and said, "You're eclectic." And Myrtle Fillmore looked up and said, "Yeah, I am eclectic, and I defend my right to remain eclectic. If by Christianity you mean checking your brains at the door, no, unity is not that. Unity is not that. If it is being able to be eclectic and to also look at other spiritual paths and see what wisdom we can learn from that, that I think is, very much more what we have tended to be about. And so I would go back very much to that saying by Eric Butterworth. Again, Eric Butterworth said he was not interested in the religion about Jesus, but he was deeply interested in the religion of Jesus. If by Christianity you mean the religion about Jesus, then we're not that. We're not, and you just have to drive up the Jerry Falwell Parkway and somebody will serve you. But if by you mean the religion of Jesus, if you mean where the finger was pointing to, then unity is very much part of that. Is very much part of that. And I would say very much in that first century Christian tradition, which I believe very much the Fillmores were really trying to get back to. The Fillmores did not claim new revelation. What they felt very much is they were trying to get back to where the Master was pointing. Does Christianity can you see the perennial philosophy that we talked about, the golden thread in Christianity? Oh my goodness. All you have to do is pick up Aldous Huxley's book on the perennial philosophy, and you will see that in so many places where he is talking about what this perennial philosophy, this golden thread has been about, he's quoting Jesus. He's quoting Jesus. Another wonderful book which I've suggested on this list is called The Heart of Christianity by Marcus Borg. And Marcus Borg believes that essentially what Jesus was talking about can be boiled down to 2 points. 2 points, 2 bumper stickers, as it were. The first, says Marcus, is that Jesus' message essentially was about the reality of spirit. That there is, that the material world is not the end-all and the be-all. That your egos is not your end-all and be-all. That there is something so much more incredible about you than just your ego. And let me say, I think in your car, it's important to have an ego. Just don't let it sit in the driver's seat too long. That would be my suggestion. So the first that Marcus Borg says that the first thing Jesus was talking about was the reality of spirit, and that there is so much more than this material world. The second, compassion. Compassion and empathy. Compassion and empathy. And Marcus said, if you got those 2 points, you got Jesus' message, where he was pointing to. And I would say, essentially also, you have the perennial philosophy. Oh my goodness, the way Jesus stated the great commandment, it's in all of the great spiritual traditions, but what I so admire about, it's in Judaism, as we'll see next week, but it's in the negative. Maimonides, Rabbi Hillel said, don't do to others as you would have them not do to you. And Jesus put it very much in the positive. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Again, I think so centered on the perennial philosophy. What Jesus is saying, what defiles a person is not what he puts in his mouth, but what comes out of his mouth. But what comes out of his mouth. The spices that using is the pure heart and love. The camera angle, certainly, definitely, very much beyond the ego. And aspire, remember we talked about that in the Daily Word, Robin just read it, in chapter 11 of Mark, where Jesus says, when you pray, believe that you have received, and you will receive. What is Christianity good at? I think many things, but one thing in particular is it's, at least in the early days, was highly, I can't tell you how highly adaptable it was, and open-minded and adaptable. You come to a new area, and they're sacrificing the firstborn. Obviously, that cannot be incorporated. The sacrificing, the murder of the firstborn is obviously not going to be, with compassion and empathy. There's no way you can put that one in. But if you come to a Teutonic tribe, and they're bringing, it's wintertime, and they're bringing in pine trees into their house to Thor, what do? Do you tell them you can't bring in pine trees and get rid of the... No, you tell them it's Christmas trees. And you just incorporate it and you adapt it in. And, if you're in Hawaii, Mele Kaleki Hana is the Hawaiian way of saying Merry Christmas to you. A very broad and inclusive and adaptable way. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times various forms of modern Christianity have lost that sense. Weak, if there was a weakness, I would point to, again, and I don't think it's just Christianity, but I think it's there that pointing the finger instead of looking the way the master was pointing or the mistress was pointing, making a bronze cast, a golden calf of the finger and bowing down to that. Now, I would caution us in New Thought. Are we sometimes not looking where Charles and Myrtle or where Eric Butterworth or where Emily Cady was pointing to? And have we more or less made, sometimes a plaster cast of their finger? And if that's the case, we shouldn't be doing that. There's a wonderful story. Charles Fillmore was teaching a class, and he asks a student. One of the students says, "Well, what do you, what on this point?" And the student says, "Well, on page 58, Charles Fillmore writes the following." Charles Fillmore came over, shut the book, said, "I'm not interested in what Charles Fillmore thinks. What do you think?" And does that principle work? It works in my life, but I'm irrelevant to you in many ways. Does it work in your life? Have you proved it? Have you proved it works in your life, or are you just taking it, on hearsay evidence? So I think that is so incredibly important. I think the key points to take away from all this, I would just put 4. First, Myrtle Fillmore, and demanding the right to be eclectic. Demanding the right to be eclectic. Yes, I am eclectic. And if I see something which I think is going to help me spiritually over here, I'm going to bring it in. And that adaptability in early Christianity. Second, to remember that Jesus, despite whatever you hear televangelists saying, Jesus and the first century followers were not Orthodox Christians, were not traditional Christians, were not evangelical Christians. And a lot of this stuff only came centuries and centuries later. Third, the key part, what is the key part of Jesus' message? And I think Marcus Borg hits the nail right on the head about the reality of spirit, about something so much more powerful in this material world, and compassion and empathy. And lastly, let's look and make sure that we are not making bronze casts out of enlightened masters' fingers, as it were. Charles Fillmore one time was asked, "What's the most powerful line in all the Bible?" And he answered without a moment's hesitation. He went to the first chapter of Thessalonians. He said, "The most powerful line in all the Bible is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Buddha nature in you, the hope of glory. Your higher self in you, the hope of glory. The perennial philosophy, the golden thread inside of you, the hope of glory." When we feel that, know that, radiate that, then we are personally a living, essential part of the perennial philosophy and the golden thread. Thank you, and God bless.
So blessed, I am so blessed.
As we go into meditation, let's take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Let's take another deep breath in and slowly let it out. Let's close our eyes if we feel comfortable doing so. And as we think about Christianity, one of the things that comes to my mind is one of my Christian heroes, that great Trappist monk, Thomas Merton. He wrote many wonderful prayers, but one of them is this: My Lord God, I have no idea where I am going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think I am following your will does not mean that I'm actually doing so. But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope that desire will be shown in all that I am doing. I hope that I will never do anything apart from that desire. And I know that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it. Therefore will I trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death. I will not fear, for you are ever with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. With this faith, with this hope, and with this joy, we gladly go into the silence. Dear Spirit, thank you for our many, many blessings. And where there are challenges, may we see these challenges as opportunities for more spiritual growth. And for this and so much more, we say thank you and amen and amen.
of God. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. Love of God holds us. I am the God. Power of God protects us. I am the presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well.
And now we come to that time of tithes, gifts, that great unity minister, Jim Rosemergy, even wrote a book about it. He said even mystics have to pay bills. And so many things, I've said so many good things have happened around here because of Ari. One of this was a suggestion by Ari, said, why don't we just take our operating budget, put it up, and so from now, our fiscal year ends in August. Why don't we just put it up and just run a pledge collection, and once we have that done, we don't have to hawk or demand, or browbeat or even money wise. Something profound's coming. No, anyway, and I thought it was a really great idea. So we've been running this pledge campaign for 2 weeks, only 2 weeks, and again, the total which we're gunning for is roughly $47,000. Not much. This is a frugal ministry. I got to tell you, you come here during the week, it's a meat locker in terms of, I feel sometimes like Bob Cratchit. Can I put another coal on the fire? And no offense, that's the way it should be. It should be a frugal and lean ministry, and this ministry honestly, truly is that. We've done this for 2 weeks, and the pledges we have already are like roughly 57%. That's incredible. I mean, remember, this is the congregation before the pandemic. Paid off, said, why do we have a mortgage? Let's just pay the darn thing off. And you had that consciousness to pay it off. And it was an adjustable rate mortgage. I mean, you guys saw what was coming in terms of interest rates. And so when we put ourselves together, we can we can take care of these financial things, take care of them quickly, and get on to the more important stuff. Get on to the more important stuff. So if you've not made a pledge, what I would ask you to do, you'll see on the back there these pledge forms. Please fill it out. Again, this is our fiscal year ends at the end of August, but we're also not asking just for money. I mean, remember Jesus talked about time, treasure, and talent. We're also asking about volunteering, areas where you're interested in volunteering and stuff like that. And so it's really we're asking if you could do that, and so we can get this done. We can take this thermometer and what with it. So and we're pretty close to being able to do that. Let's affirm our abundance. And by God, this really, this is said in a lot of Unity churches. This is really true here. I mean, I'm the new kid on the block, and I've seen this happen with this congregation in here. Unity in the Seven Hills is abundantly blessed. Creative people are drawn to us. Divine ideas flow through us. Financial resources bless us. And we accomplish mighty works together. And with this abundance, I got to tell you, some Unity churches stopped tithing. In other words, giving. Stopped giving out during the pandemic. This congregation didn't. You know, the contributions were a little less that we gave out because far less was flowing in, but you continued to be givers, and you've been blessed by that. I have seen Unity Ministries which stopped giving during the pandemic, and it has that consciousness boomerangs. The law of attraction really does work, and when you start behaving that way, it works in a negative way. You guys have not, and it's worked in a positive way. This ministry supports various Unity Worldwide Ministry, Silent Unity, and this month, locally, we are supporting
the Jubilee Center, which this being Black History Month is a really great organization to donate to. We got 2 more weeks this month, so please help us support them.
Folks out in TV land, there are many ways of giving through Zelle, check, cash, PayPal, click and give. Snail mail continues to work. It's a little slower, but it continues to work. Thank you so much. As we're going to start, my favorite song of the whole thing is Shooting Matches, Something Wonderful, and we're going to start singing that together. Come on down. I don't care if you're given or not, please, your blessings and your vibrations, your positive vibes are really welcomed. Take an affirmation over there, and then we circle, and we circle as a congregation. So let's start something wonderful.
I just want to say, if he talks about how great I am one more time, Deanna, we're going to have to talk about a raise. All right, let's get on our feet, sing something wonderful, wait for those ushers to come around. Once it starts. There we go. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go, no it won't let go. All this love inside, we can let it shine. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go, no it won't let go. All this love inside, we can let it shine out, yes we can, something wonderful. Give it a few more minutes for people to finish the circle here. All right, as we're getting situated, let's go ahead and bless our gifts. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. United in mind, body, and spirit, I dedicate these gifts as they grow to bless our community, our neighborhood, and our world. Thank you for joining us today. A calendar of events is available at unityinthesevenhills.org. We also have some copies in the back for anyone who's here in person. We have a quick reminder of all the events we have weekly. Mondays at 6:15, join us for yoga with the wonderful Rhonda. And then at 7 p.m. on Zoom, we have our Spirit Circle to dive into the Sunday message. Tuesdays at 10:30 on Zoom, 10:30 a.m. Oh, wait, no. Tuesdays, 10:30 a.m. on Zoom. We apply our principles of Rubber Meets the Road. We want to make sure I have the a.m. or the p.m. on there. Wednesdays, we are following Eric Butterworth and learning new thoughts on prayer. Thursdays come Zen Out meditation with the fantastic Ari. They are just wonderfully great meditations. That's at 6 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, you get to take a break. We don't have a whole lot going on yet.
A few small things I don't have slides for. Anyone who was involved in Susie Conine's goals group, there was going to be a meeting in the coming month that is going to be delayed for a month due to some health issues. Also, after service, we're going to have our candle lighting today, so stick around for that before we go grab coffee. And now here's Reverend Rick to talk about our upcoming Unity Book Club.
We have a new Unity Book Club starting in March. We're going to be doing actually Eric Butterworth's In the Flow. The concept of flow has been a concept which is, or being in the zone, has been in sports, it's been in psychology, it's been in spirituality, and this book of In the Flow has a lot to be said. The book club will be online, and there'll be sign-up sheets, and please, we hope you will be there.
And we do have some copies of that in right now. I have to calculate how much it costs, but we do have some copies in. And now, do we want to hear from our youth?
Cool.
There are more of us, but we're shy today, and that's okay. I jumped the gun last week and started on Christianity, so we did a lot more talking about that downstairs and read a bit more about it, and the girls want to talk about what they did.
Oh,
We made little Jesus. And then we also did some art about what Easter is to us, and talked more about the two major holidays in Christianity, which are Easter and Christmas.
All right, your prayer chaplain today is Sally, right? Yep, Sally. They'll be around to hold space if you need anything prayed for today. We're about to sing the peace song and gather for coffee, but before that, if you're watching at home, please like, comment, and subscribe. I beg you, please help us out. It's real easy. It's absolutely free. Just click the like button. That's all you have to do. And also, subscribing is the easiest way to access our live streams. Get a notification on your phone every time we go live. Now, let's go ahead and close with the peace song. Yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, united all are we. Yes, we walk with each other perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me. Yes, this is the moment now. Remember the step. With every step I take, yes, this is my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me.